Welcome to the COVID Diaries interviews, funded by the New Hampshire Humanities Collaborative and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. Monique Doukas interviews Richard Dean Mattice.
Hi, my name's Monique Doukas, and I'm here with my friend Rich today, who is a co-worker at Trader Joe's with me, and he has a story he'd like to share. So we're going to get down to it. Hi, Rich.
Hey, how's it going, Moody?
Pretty good. How about you?
Doing pretty good.
So thank you for saying yes to tell me your story for this COVID Diaries project we're doing with the college.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what do you want to tell me what it's like to be a essential worker?
Yeah, it's been an incredibly unique experience being an essential worker. From the get-go, it's been unlike anything I ever expected to experience in my lifetime. Working at a grocery store, I have that like firsthand experience with, being around the public for 5 days a week, wearing the mask 8 hours plus a day. And it's been like I said, quite a unique experience. Just having to deal with the anxiety of being in the public and dealing with the uneasiness and uncertainty of this whole pandemic. It's been like I said, unlike anything I ever truly could have expected to have to deal with in my life.
Right. You want to start with like the weekend, which will be forever known as the weekend back in March. I think it was March 14th of last
Yeah,
year.
yeah, it was. So I vividly remember that day as
Yeah.
being, I had heard about the pandemic, I had heard about COVID-19, but in my mind, it was so far away. It was over in Asia. It was maybe a little bit in Europe.
Yeah.
I had heard Italy was starting to. I mean, at that point, Italy had just started getting some serious lockdowns and
Right.
cases, and it had. It wasn't even really a forethought for me. It wasn't in my day-to-day life. It was just something that was interesting to read about on, the
Right.
news or on Reddit or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It really hit home on that first weekend when everything started getting serious in
Yeah.
America. I walked into work. It was a Friday. It was
Mm-hmm.
my Monday, but it was a Friday during the week. And I remember vividly just coming into work, normal day, and the first thing I saw was we were empty. Like there was no bread at all. And I thought, oh, we must have missed a truck.
Yeah.
There's no way that this is, anything too crazy. And I
Mm-hmm.
kept walking on my way to the back room to clock in, and I looked at meat.
Yeah.
We had no meat.
Empty.
And it started kind of clicking in my brain. No eggs, no milk.
Right.
I was like, okay, something had to have happened. And one of the managers came out of the back room as I was walking into the back room, and she looked at me and goes, "Hey, have you taken a look at Frozen yet?" And I was like, "No, like what's going on?" And she just looked at me and was like, "There's this is panic buying right now."
Right.
And I walked over to the Frozen aisle, and it was barren.
I know.
I remember it was like we had some of the slowest selling items were the only things we had left.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the black matting at the bottom of the freezer the whole way down. Um,
I think
I mean,
yogurt was left, right? I
yeah,
think
exactly.
yogurt was the only thing.
Yogurt, zucchini noodles, and like a few of those off items that
Right.
the more specialty items is what we had left. But other than that, that's when I feel it truly set in that, oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
Like this could be bad.
Right.
I did not expect it to get to the point that we're at, in early 2021. I never would have foreseen this, but that first weekend, it was crazy.
It was crazy. And nobody was
No,
wearing masks yet, right? Because,
yeah, no, I mean, no
yeah,
one was wearing a mask. It
no.
was, if I saw maybe two people a day wearing a mask in March, I, those were the crazy people.
What made you more
those,
nervous?
yeah,
Yeah,
those were the wacky people, the ones
yeah.
wearing the masks.
Made you feel like, do they have it? Why? Yeah,
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 exactly. Like, why are they wearing a mask? No one else is. This is crazy.
right.
Um, but yeah, from that point, it slowly progressed. It
Mm-hmm.
got to, you would hear more cases and you hear more cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing about the first case that came into New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 weeks after that first like panic buying weekend.
Yeah.
Um, and again, still no one wearing masks. It was still kind of like, oh, we're in New Hampshire, we're secluded.
Yeah.
It's that's miles away. That's in New York City. That's in California.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, hearing that first case, and granted, it was out on the border of Vermont,
Right.
but it still brought it home that no, this isn't going away. This is
Mm-hmm.
just going to continue.
I
Um,
know it. And remember at first, like it was some people wanted to wear masks, some of our coworkers,
yeah,
and they didn't want us to. And
yeah, it
then they
was.
changed their mind.
I mean, it was weird because at first, I mean, nobody knew how the virus spread really in the beginning. So there were many of us that were vocal about, hey, is it cool if we wear gloves while we're at register dealing with customers?
Yeah.
And at first they were like, maybe not so much. And
Right.
then it was like a week or two later, they were like, you know what, if you want to wear gloves, wear gloves. And then it started getting to the point where it was like, hey, this might be a respiratory thing. Is it okay if we wear masks?
Yeah.
And the company was like, maybe not so much. And then the CDC came out and was like, yeah, this is potentially spread airborne. And then the company was like, oh yeah, absolutely, wear masks. And then it was almost a week. I think it was just one full week from the time that the company was like, "Hey, you can wear masks too. Hey, you have to wear a mask."
Yep.
Because I do remember there was one day I clocked in. I didn't have a mask with me. I mean, this was still early
Right.
on in the pandemic, and nobody was consistently wearing masks or bringing masks in.
Right.
And I clocked in. I went out on the floor, and a manager came up to me and was like, "Hey, you got to put a mask on. We got them up front, but you can't be on the floor without one." And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
Yeah. And then also we went from, and then it was, yep, you have to wear a mask while the store is open. And
Yep.
then it was, but when we close, we don't have to. And then we kind of thought, well, that doesn't really make sense
Yeah, it was.
if
It
we're going to
was.
wear them.
I think. Yeah, and there was a lot of employees that right at the beginning were kind of relaxed about the whole thing, and I think that it's just it was a combination of I don't want to use the term denial, but it almost felt a little bit like denial of how severe that the pandemic was starting to get,
Mm-hmm.
and this ideal of like normality that everyone so dearly wanted to preserve.
Yeah.
Um, and I I was very adamantly um, a mask wearer. I was constantly just trying to be as vocal as possible to be like, hey, this might be a good idea to wear masks. But I absolutely at the beginning understood where the people were coming from that were like, hey, it's this summer, it's going to clear up. It's,
Yeah.
everyone's saying that it's going to die down once July hits and this and that. You don't
Yeah.
really need to worry about it. It'll all be gone come August.
Oh yeah.
I think that it was just that sense of everyone wanted normalcy. Everyone wanted it to go back to the way it was. And
Yeah.
to an extent, that could have played a role into why numbers drastically shot up in November. It's
Yeah.
just that sense of burnout and that sense of that desire to just go back to everyday life.
Yeah. I think you're right. And now here we are in February 2021, still wearing masks every day. I remember in the beginning, I didn't even think I would be able to wear one, right? Because
Yeah.
of my glasses.
Oh yeah, I remember your glasses would fog up every time you came out of the freezer. Um, and myself, I I've since quit, but I was a smoker at the start of the pandemic, and I remember the mask. I mean, go out for a cigarette break on your, back in March, April, go out for a cigarette, and then you put the mask on, and you just, oh my gosh, you couldn't even deal with it. It was so bad.
I know, huh?
Um, but
And not
yeah,
only that, but you had a baby on the way and
oh
you
yeah.
had to worry about bringing it home to your pregnant girlfriend. And
Well,
uh,
that was like the scariest part for me
yeah,
was no one knew um, how this affected people
yeah,
truly. Everyone knew that, oh, it causes, bad cough and it's, miserable and aches and pains and fevers and this and that. So we all knew the symptoms, but nobody, and I feel like we really fully don't comprehend it completely yet. I mean,
yeah,
even just about a year in, it's still largely we don't really know in terms of what the long-term repercussions of the virus is going to be.
yeah.
Um, and
It's
so,
true. The people, some
the
people are long haulers and they have these
yeah,
symptoms for like a really long time.
yeah, and like being in the public so much this pandemic as an essential worker has been truly trying
Yeah,
to my mental fortitude. Um,
mm,
just that everyday nervousness of, am I going to bring this home? Am
yeah,
I going to get sick? Am I going to bring this home to my newborn?
yeah.
Am I going to bring this home to my pregnant girlfriend?
Right.
Uh, that was something that weighed heavily on me day in and day
I
out and
bet.
forced me to be, I mean, definitely one of the more stringent people when it comes to, respecting the 6 feet and
Yeah.
only being around people wearing masks. And I'm sure I got on people's nerves, but that's not something that phases me in the least bit. I was taking care of, my small family,
That's right.
and that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
that was, I mean, absolutely one of the hardest parts about this pandemic has just been
Yeah.
that uncertainty of
I agree.
I am in the public eye for 40 hours a week. Um,
Yep. Dealing with lots of people. And the other thing
lots of people, and
is that there's still some non-maskers out there, right?
yeah,
And we can't enforce it. That makes it hard.
yeah, New Hampshire is, so there's a mask mandate, but it's unenforceable because
I know.
people, the issue is that I'm sure there are legitimate medical exemptions. There's got to be at least one or two, like, oh, I have severe COPD and I am wearing an oxygen mask and a mask just does not work with this, or there's got to be something. That being said, people that are legitimately sick and have legitimate medical exemptions probably are having friends and family do their public shopping for
Exactly.
them.
That's what, yeah.
And it's irritating to see somebody who, granted, looks healthy. You never know.
Right.
But someone that looks pretty healthy in their early 30s, oh, I have a medical exemption. I cannot wear a mask.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're required. Oh, nope, I have a medical exemption. It's that self entitlement
Yeah.
of, I don't really care if I'm putting others at danger. I want my sense of liberty, my sense of freedom to
Yeah.
stay intact. And
And some people don't believe in it still. They
Yeah.
think it's like not real. So
Well,
that's part of it.
unfortunately, it became this partisan thing
Hmm.
where, some Republicans were being very vocal against it. And I don't know. I think it all stemmed from at the start of the pandemic. Some prominent political figures were very vocally disavowing the legitimacy of the virus itself.
Yeah.
They they said some questionable things about, oh, it's just going to go away by April and this and that and the other thing. And I think it put into a lot of people's minds that, oh, this is not a serious thing,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate that,
Yeah. Or the government is trying to control what you're doing.
yeah, that's the one that I think is the conspiracy theory
Yeah.
aspect is the one that blows my mind the most.
Hmm.
I mean, power to you, be a conspiracy theorist. I have nothing against it as long as you're not hurting people. But I
Exactly.
mean, you're kind of hurting people if you're not putting a mask on and you're spreading this.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's been definitely crazy just seeing this development of these very hard-headed people still unwilling to respect their fellow countrymen and their fellow community members.
Yeah.
It's been very hard to see that. I mean, it's definitely gone down over the past, mm, maybe since the holiday season ended. It's gone down steadily, but during the holiday season, it was like, I don't know, 10 to 20 people a day on average were showing up to the store claiming medical exemptions and
Uh-huh.
walking around. There was customers that would just be chewing gum and, drinking their Starbucks coffee, just
Yep.
walking around.
Yeah, getting really close to you
Oh,
when you're
yeah.
trying to put stuff away and
Yeah, walking right up to you and asking questions about 2 feet from your face.
yeah.
And for me, it was like, I was so on guard, especially this past holiday season,
Yeah.
just keeping my head up, making sure, okay, I know where all the customers are. That person's wearing a mask under their nose. So I gotta, make sure I'm at least 6 feet away from them. Okay, that person's wearing a mask that's N95. Maybe I don't need to be as cautious, but I'll still, maintain some distance from them. But like, it's this mental gymnastics of making sure that I'm aware of everyone around me at any given time,
Uh-huh.
that is just brutally exhausting and
Yeah,
really got to me this holiday season.
I bet. And it's super stressful. And the other thing is um things constantly changing, right? Like at first we weren't having lines outside and we weren't having um numbers limited to coming in the store, and
Yeah.
then the line started outside, and then the tape everywhere, and then that
Hmm.
changed and moving people forward and moving them back, and
Yeah.
yeah.
It was just this ever flowing, constant, battle of trying to figure out what was best for employees and customers alike.
Right.
Um, I think it started with the tape. We started, marking the ground
Yep.
with little lines. It was funny to me at the beginning of this. We were marking the ground, the floors at the store we worked at are red, and we were marking them with red tape.
Yeah.
So it was like it blended in together. It was really nonsensical. And no
And
one was
nobody
paying
saw it.
attention. Yeah, no one saw it. You had to remind every customer, oh, hey, if you
Everyone.
don't mind standing back behind this line,
Oh boy.
and at the point that it started, less than half of the customers were wearing masks.
Yeah.
Again, it was the wacky people. It was the crazy ones that were wearing the masks in March and April.
Right.
Um, but it evolved. We got the plexiglass. That happened pretty quickly. Um, then we got that line outside, which I remember walking into work. My normal shift is 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 9. And walking in at 1 o'clock, that line would be, 50 people deep just
Yeah.
waiting to get in the store. I mean, these people are waiting 20, 30 minutes just to buy their groceries.
Yep.
And a part of you chuckles because you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these people are actually waiting this long. But then there's this other part of you that's like, my God, like this is the world we are in right now.
I know.
This is what we have to do to ensure the safety of the customers and the crew members.
Right.
Yeah, the line started. We got I think it was a local guy out of Portsmouth. I don't know the business name. I wish I did, but a guy came in with specially made like stickers to put on the floor, um, reminding people to stand 6 feet apart due to per CDC guidelines. And
Yeah.
I remember the management team was super excited. They're like, "Oh, sweet, this is awesome. We can put these on the ground." And they did it within, I think an hour of when that guy dropped it all off.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, we started with was it 30 customers, 30 or 30 customers in
I
the
think
beginning
maybe
of
it
the
was
summer.
30 for a while, right? And then we went up to
Yeah,
35 and now we're at 40.
yeah. So that was one thing that was definitely interesting is they went from 30 customers in the very beginning, which
Yeah.
was, I mean, an empty store essentially. That was nothing. But we also weren't doing a ton of business in the very beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just slowly evolved to okay, 35. Okay, maybe we can bump that up to 40.
Because
The
it's
issue
cold
was,
now.
yeah, once it got cold out, that was the big issue. Was you can't have this giant line outside when it's winds are gusting and this and that. And
Yeah.
every once in a while this winter, the management team was like, we just gotta let some more people in. I remember there was one time we got up to like 50 people, which is a little bit outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But in the same respect, I get it. I totally understand why it had to happen.
Yeah.
Um, it's unfortunate that there was no real way to, I guess, get the customer base out of the elements. No matter what, that line outside, they're going to be standing around outside.
That's right. And when people would ask, "Oh, what are you going to do in the winter?" It's like,
Yeah,
dress warm. That's what I
yeah,
tell
exactly.
people.
and
Dress
that's where
warm.
and that's where we're at right now. I
It
mean,
is.
I thought that I thought come the winter, people were gonna just, write us off, not stop showing up, and the line is just as long as it ever has been.
Yeah.
And people are standing outside with huge winter coats on and 15 pairs of gloves and 3 hats, and
And they're
they're
willing to do it. That's what's
yeah,
amazing because you can go into other stores without waiting in a line because other stores are way, way bigger.
yeah. And
But
on top of
people
that,
love us, right? So,
they love us. And one thing that I've gotten a lot is they love how safe we're being about everything.
mhm,
We still have a senior shopping hour twice a week, which is, amazing.
yeah,
We are still sanitizing surfaces. We're still, ensuring that customers are getting or I'm sorry, crew members are getting their temperatures checked when they clock in for the day. It's I think that the environment that our store has created is what has kept our customer base so willing to grin and bear the whipping winds and the
yeah,
pouring rains to stand in line for, I mean, good lord, up to half an hour at some days.
yeah.
um,
I know it.
you know
Yeah,
especially like when you go outside and you're manning the line as an employee, you're only out there for a half an hour. But there have been times where after that half an hour, I come in, I have to like run my hands under hot water
I
for like
know,
5 minutes and
huh?
you're shivering and shaking and
I know it's crazy. And I think also that some customers appreciate the limited numbers in the store because we used to get so insane you couldn't even move in there.
oh yeah, it's I mean it's it's night and day compared to what it was in that 2019.
Oh my God.
um, and I don't know when it's going to get back to the way it was in 2019, but
I don't know either.
uh, my goodness, like the the level of attention to detail that our company has been striving for is comforting. And
Yeah.
I think, like you said, that the customer base they're happy to see us still doing what we're doing.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people are getting burnt out. A lot of people are. I myself am getting a little burnt out.
Yeah.
It's exhausting just constantly having to wash your hands and can't forget your mask in your car and
Right.
this, that, and the other thing.
Mhm.
After a while, you're just like, my good Lord, I want nothing more than to hang out with my friends,
Yeah.
go out, grab a slice of pizza at a restaurant,
I know.
and go back to normal life. But you can't.
I know.
And that's where we're still at. And
That's where we're
I
still at.
I I don't know. My prediction, we'll see how accurate it is, but my prediction's maybe hopefully August this year everything starts getting cleared up
I
just
hope
with the
you're right.
vaccination. But
Yep. Well, hey, we've got it recorded, so if
yeah,
your
we'll
prediction's
find
right,
out.
if your prediction's right, we'll have you on audio saying it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Rich. Is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add how grounding this experience has been. I
Hmm.
think for a lot of people, um, life is incredibly fragile.
Yeah.
A lot of people are dying because of this virus, and
Yeah.
it's an awful thing.
It is.
Um, but I think that coming together as a community, especially in a small state like New Hampshire,
Hmm.
it's been really eye-opening. The number of people that are still so thankful for me working where I work. They
Yep.
come in, you're ringing them out, and oh, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. It's that community aspect of we're in this as a the human race.
Right.
We are in this together.
Yep.
And until it's over, we have to watch out for everyone.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm glad to be in an area of this country that we have kind of truly stood up and gone, hey, this is how it's going to happen. We're going to work together and we're going to make sure that we're all safe.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I got to add.
Yeah. I think
This
that's a really
is,
good point.
yeah, this has been an absolutely eye opening and humbling experience.
Right. And the good thing about these stories that we're collecting is at some point in time, people are going to want to know what it was like, and
Yeah,
they'll be able to know your story. So thank you for sharing it, Rich. I really appreciate it.
you're very welcome.
Special thanks to the Community College System of New Hampshire. Faculty mentors Krista Zoba, Sally Bashalani, Kara Shenoy, and Paula Delbonis Platt, along with Dawn DeAngelis of New Hampshire Public Television, PBS, the University of New Hampshire, the Huge Manatees Project at the University of New Hampshire, and its co-directors, Krista Law Jackman and Molly Campbell. Leslie Barber at the Community College System of New Hampshire, audio editor, William Forrest Platt, copyright, New Hampshire Humanities Collaborative and CCSNH 2021.